Okay, we're preparing to live stream. It's not quite there yet, but it will be. Okay. Oh, all right. Hope everybody's doing well. And oh, can you guys hear me talking as well?
Yes.
I mean, a double. There we go. Hopefully it's still live streaming. This will be a great test. Yeah, it looks like it is. I had to close out of the browser that opens up after you do the whole live stream to YouTube thing, because I could hear myself talking right after I said something. So, and it looks like it is still streaming. That's what I see on my Zoom space. So I think we're all set. Hey, David. All right, so how about if today we start things just a little bit different and start out with some sharing? Does anybody have like some exciting news or a question for the group? Raise your hand if you do. All right, Holly, go ahead.
At Crossroads, we've had worship on the lawn for 3 Sundays. It's so great to be back together again. Oh man. And we are right next to the jogging path on Central. And so people just stop jogging and come over, sit down for a while. Last week we had 5 strangers attend the worship service. Yeah, a neighbor came over and said, "Are you guys going to be doing a concert?" And we said, no, it's church. Come on over. So it's been so great. Exciting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And that's on the lawn of the church property, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we are on the corner of Northern and Central. So it's a great location for traffic. And there's a jogging path right on the sidewalk, next to the sidewalk beside our church. And so people park in our parking lot all the time so that they can go jogging. And now they kind of drop by occasionally. So it's been wonderful.
Very nice. Congrats.
We're hoping we don't have to close down now before Christmas. So do you know when we might hear if we are?
I don't know.
We just now submitted our Advent ad in the community newspaper, and we're ordering the banner for the lawn, and they all say, come and join us in person on Christmas Eve. Are we?
I mean, who can predict what's going to happen with COVID?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, this same thing happened at Easter. We had all of our banners and ads out and said, join us for Easter, and then we shut the doors. So
anybody else have something to share?
Well, I shared with Misty when we started. The mandala behind me is something that I colored this weekend on for a retreat, the contemplative writing retreat that was offered by the 5-day spiritual group.
Yeah, and the upper room.
Upper room, yes. So it was really, really a wonderful retreat. And actually, we talked about the fact that it was virtual saved so much money that more people were able to attend.
That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, exactly.
I know they were pretty nervous about how that was going to go, just because this was, I think, their first time doing it that way.
Wonderful.
Just about everything, pretty close to everything. There was a lot to work on for that one. I helped out with putting
They did the breakouts into different rooms, and it was wonderful. It was excellent.
Nice. So seeing that it worked out so well for the upper room, I mean, that's something for the rest of us to consider, that, we could do something like that. I think someone maybe from this group had shared before that the way they start out worship was starting out in breakout rooms. Like maybe everybody comes in for a brief fellowship online and then send them off to their breakout rooms for adult Sunday school, youth group, children's Sunday school, and then you bring them all back in for worship. That was pretty amazing because that's one person that's having to manage all that stuff instead of all these different licenses and different people that are in charge of the, running this meeting, running that meeting. So I know Judy Barato was the one that managed the breakout rooms for the Upper Room and 5-Day Academy Writing Retreat this last weekend. So if you have questions, contact Judy because she does this normally. I don't know what else exactly they do at her church, but she said, yeah, we use breakout rooms all the time. It's pretty easy. That's kind of cool. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and get started unless somebody else has something else to share or a question to ask. Okay, then the first thing that I want to talk about is the webinar on virtual choirs, or I should say the upcoming Q&A panel. I'm going to share my screen. It's not about religion and race. There we go. So if you hadn't already heard about it, the resources for how to start a virtual choir are here on this dscumc.org/worship-online/virtual-choir page. And tomorrow at 10 a.m., we're going to have a Q&A panel. So if your church was using any of these resources to try to figure out how can we do a virtual choir, the follow-up from these video trainings and step-by-step articles is the Q&A panel tomorrow at 10 a.m. You'll get to talk to the people that wrote the articles, that are running the trainings, and ask them more specific questions about what you're struggling with, or maybe it's, well, what equipment are you using? Because we're struggling with our equipment, or whatever it is. And just this morning, thank you, David Topping, I linked this step-by-step article on how to use the Acapella app. So that's available now. That's the newest piece there. All right, so, and final thing is you will have to register if you want to participate in the Q&A, if you want to send somebody from your church to participate. Anybody that registers is going to get the an email response after the event is over with the direct link to the Zoom recording. So if they can't make it, don't freak out, because they could register and get the link, or just come back to this page later and I'll have it available, linked here as well. All right, now, did you guys hear about the Where Love Lives campaign? Okay, I'm seeing some nods. Okay, great. So what I wanted to share with you is if you go to the home page, now we've got a button here that's a bright green button that says Where Love Lives. This site or page is somewhat in draft form, meaning that not everything is available yet, but you could access it now and start getting a glimpse of what are the themes for the upcoming months. So if you're thinking about doing a sermon series, or writing an article, or having an event that kind of aligns with the stuff that this media campaign is all about, we'll keep adding to this page as more things are available. I know that the bishop and so here's the articles and pieces that have been published so far for the campaign. And of course, we do load them onto social media, so you'll be able to share them that way if you don't want to actually include them in your own stuff, but do want to share the message. It's a little more content, positive content that your church can share. So part of what's coming down the pike on this media campaign, so January, we're publishing a resource that a whole team, I think Susan Brims is leading this team, and it'll be lots of great stuff that follows or aligns with this January theme of we will always allow same-sex marriage ceremonies in our churches. I'll have that linked here, but it's also going to be a collaborative of resources from the other Western jurisdiction conferences on the same topic. And every month now, the district superintendents, the bishop, our conference lay leader, Billy Fidlin, different people from the conference are writing articles and creating resources. In some cases, I think it's even video bits that you could use in your church, whether it's in your newsletter or as an email blast, that will provide additional content for each of these months. Let's see. And so again, those will be linked here as they become available. And once or twice a month, we will be sending an email to our Desert Southwest Conference newsletter recipients that is specifically about the Where Love Lives campaign. And as we have more items to support it, so it'll be one main item, whether it's an article or a video, and then we'll have a few links below it that are additional resources for that month. But if you didn't get the email or you can't find it, just know you'll find those things here in this Where Love Lives page. It'll be here before it becomes an email. Any questions about that? Okay. And oh yeah, last bit is if you have a ministry or people that participate in your church where English is not their primary language, we're working hard to get other languages available as well. Korean and Spanish are the two that we can provide right now. So it's all it is it brings you to a Google Drive where you can download different types or different sizes of these images for the month. And it's not necessarily just this one. There's usually 2 or 3 different ones that you can use, but we're asking that you keep 2. Let's say December, because they all say Where Love Lives. Let's say you like the images from December and we were still in October. We're asking that you wait to use the December images for December, use the October images in October, because we're trying to have the same type of branding all across. And you'll see that our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those will, well, not Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, the social media banners are going to change to match this, whatever the month's theme is. And we might even have to change our homepage on our website to match that as well. We're really trying to build up the momentum for this campaign. And, you know, when I originally mentioned it to you guys, I think I shared about how it was created originally. I'm gonna stop sharing for a sec. In support of the protocol. And now we're not really mentioning the protocol. I just wanted to clarify that it doesn't mean that we're not in support of the protocol, but there is some rumblings that the protocol may change. And so we don't know what it's gonna look like in the end. So if this whole time we're saying, you know, support the protocol and the protocol's great and da-da-da, and then in the end, it's something that does not reflect our values of inclusivity, then, you know, we don't wanna be in that situation. So now we're just focusing on the values themselves instead of mentioning the protocol. That makes sense. All right, let me go back to sharing. All right, next piece is, so on December 16th, we're gonna have Dr. Elizabeth Schauer. She works at ASU. She did a bunch of research for, and there she is, there's her picture. Well, she didn't do the research. She studied the research that's out there about singing out loud. And so she's going to share her findings and provide some guidance if your church is kind of trying to figure out, well, why can't we, or when can't we, or how can we make it safe? She's going to be addressing those items. And she shared her findings with South District Superintendent Matt Ashley. So Matt's going to introduce her and he will read out loud whatever questions come up during the webinar in chat. And Matt shared those findings with the bishop and the other district superintendents. So this is, I'll say, fully sanctioned. I don't know if that's the right term, but she's not just coming out from nowhere with, you know, information that she thinks is great or whatever. This is information that the people that would approve your plans for reopening and having worship in person, they've all reviewed this content and feel that it is it's important information for our churches to have. So be sure to register for that. Like with the other situations, if your choir leader, your worship leader, whoever it is that makes those decisions about when can we start singing out loud, or that works towards getting that fixed so that you can do singing out loud, which we can't do right now. Those are the people that you want to have register for this webinar. All right. And it's so, yeah, go ahead, Holly.
Is there any way we can get advance information on that? We have a children's choir that wanted to sign a lease to use Crossroads as their rehearsal home just before the pandemic hit. And so they keep calling and saying, any word, any update? When can we come?
Yeah. So I don't have her information, but I know that, and I haven't seen it myself.
Yeah.
I know she's worked with Matt Ashley, and it's not, I don't want to misguide you. I don't want to say, I didn't mean to make it sound like if you follow her guidance, you will be able to sing out loud. I don't think that that's exactly what's going on here. I think it's meant to be for when you're in the place where we can sing out loud. These are the things, maybe that's what it is, or it's just information to be able to understand, why can't we sing out loud right now? I'm not 100% sure how it's going to be. So sorry, but if you have questions about it beforehand, I would contact Matt Ashley, the South District Superintendent. He might have some information that he can share with you.
Good, thank you.
Okay. I'll go back to sharing. Okay, so that's December 16th, 10 a.m. And like all the other ones, you will have to register. Oh, you know what? Okay, great. So the next item is about DSC Race Coalition. We talked about The Long Shadow. It's a film that your churches will be able to, this week is when your churches can do a screening, whether it's at your church or online. And so this link would bring you to their page where you can see all the different resources that they created so that you can do some publicity on it. This link is to get to the webinar. I made a huge mistake. I did not set up the webinar as registration required. So if anybody clicks on this, it brings you right to the webinar. And then once we launch it, it'll start. So you don't have to register for it, but which is nice. But the downside is if anybody was interested in participating and they clicked on it to try to get to it, they would see it, but they would never actually register, which means they're not going to get an automated reminder email an hour before the event starts. So if your church is one of the churches that is sharing information about the Long Shadow, not the streaming exactly, the November 18th webinar is the opportunity to deepen the conversation, to talk with the movie director. See here, Francis Casey, not sure. So I've got click here to register, but it's really just taking you to the webinar. So keep that in mind. Let's see, we'll try to go to it and see. Nope. I thought maybe you would at least see some preview information, but no, it just gets it ready to start the meeting. So again, if your church was sharing any of this information, make sure that you have schedule a reminder email now with the link to it that will automatically go out to your congregation or those people that said, I'm interested, so that they don't miss out on the opportunity to talk with the director. All right, I think that's pretty much all I had. Let's see, Q&A panel on virtual choir, Western Jurisdiction Media Campaign, singing in church webinar, DSC Race Coalition. Yep, that's it. There are some, let's see, I guess I'm working on some updates, adding more information both to that page where the Western Jurisdiction Media Campaign assets will live, If you're looking for something specific, or if you have a question about it, just shoot me an email. The easiest one is communications@dscumc.org. Same thing with the virtual choir, singing in person, any of the live streaming stuff. Oh, I do have some great news, but it's pretty, you guys already knew that I was working on getting a group license together for the streaming license. This week, the check is in the mail. So I can only say this week because I don't know if we cut checks today or is it Wednesday. I don't know when it happens, but I know it's going to happen this week. And then the downside is I don't know if when CCLI gets the payment, do they process it? Like, is it immediate or is it like 2 or 3 weeks? I don't know. But what I do know is as soon as they send me a notification that, all right, your accounts are now live, I will email all those churches that don't already have a CCLI license to let them know that it is now live. And then we'll have an article in the next, in the December newsletter, letting everybody know that, hey, guess what? If your church was paying for their CCLI streaming license, after this year, you won't have to anymore. The conference is going to be paying for it thanks to apportionment dollars. So pretty exciting stuff. The next step, because I know that CCLI streaming doesn't cover a lot of those really good songs that you guys want to be able to sing, from the Faith We Sing and United Methodist Hymnal. It covers some from the hymnal, I think, but I don't know that it covers any from Faith We Sing. So I will, once we get this one done with CCLI, then I'll start looking into what it would look like to have a one license, group license for the Desert Southwest Conference. But don't hold your breath on that one because I don't know how expensive that would be. But then another tidbit of really cool news is we're working on, we just started this week, 2 things. Number one, and maybe I'd love to hear your feedback on this. What would that look like for you guys? Is creating a @dscumc.org license for every one of our churches, and hopefully for every one of our clergy, leadership people that normally have to work with conference staff or with district staff. I don't know if it'll make sense to have them also with their own email address. But this would also open up the opportunity where lay members to annual conference maybe would have their own email address, and they would be temporary. So the email address news is exciting for me because of annual conference. Like, what if we have to do annual conference online again? This will provide a solid way of connecting with everybody that needs to participate in that Zoom platform for annual conference, and they'll know exactly which email address to use to register. So that's the plan. It would be kind of like if you started being a student at ASU, they assign you an email address. So while you're the lay member to annual conference, you would have that email address assigned, and then it's done with. And that would be also the official way of getting conference news, district news, whatever. We would not unsubscribe anybody. It would just be kind of a fail-safe. So if you had problems accessing your account or you lost your password or whatever, you would be able to contact the conference to help send you a reset my password link or that sort of thing. The other really cool thing about that is by having email addresses with the @dscumc.org account, you'd also have access to Teams. It's the Office 365 suite. You wouldn't be able to download the apps, but you would be able to use Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of those things online. So that's kind of cool for some churches that didn't have access to those resources. Once we get this all set up, at the very minimum, we will have an email address for every church. And in the best case scenario, we'll have an email address for every church, all clergy, and lay members to annual conference. So pretty exciting. Now, with the bare minimum of an email address for every church, what that's going to do, and this is what we're working on this week, we already started, is having a share space, which is like an online file sharing area for our churches to be able to upload and download their performance videos, whether it's a virtual choir, bell choir, whatever, and we'll have it, so it'll be like a video library. And we're asking that once we have it set up, we'll ask churches that if you upload something, make sure that you also state which license you used for this video. You know, which streaming license did you need to use? If you used any images, you know, links to those images so that we know if you have to buy it or not buy it, and that the videos not include your church's license, streaming license in the video, to make it easier for another church to use it. And then there's also the piece about, I'm not 100% sure. I think what we're going to do is maybe upload a document. So if my church, if I uploaded a performance video of myself singing some song, then I would also upload a statement that says, my name is Christina Dillabo. I am the performer or the content creator of whatever song. And I give permission to any Desert Southwest Conference church or ministry to use my video for their own streaming purposes, you know, via social media and or their website. You know, something along those lines. That way our churches are covered and we know that anything you get from this site is safe for you to use as long as you follow these steps. So that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. Thoughts? Go ahead, Jennifer.
That's so cool. I just wanted to say, you guys are working so hard to get this stuff going. I was so impressed with, like I said, with the retreat this weekend, and just all these things you're mentioning are just wonderful. So thank you.
Go ahead, David.
So I'll start working on blanking out our CCLI license on our videos before I upload them. Because yeah, because the app I'm using, it likes to put a watermark down there. And so I put a tile that has the song name, who wrote it, copyright date, and our CCLI number. So it's cool. I can do that.
Cool. And
but thank you. That's a good resource.
Yeah, thank you. How about, are there other things that either your church was struggling with, but you figured it out for doing online virtual worship or in Zoom? I've heard of a couple of our account people. Oh no, David, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we've had to work out some things just recently. So things keep changing. And yeah, I know, just when you think you have it, and to worship outside, like Holly, you're talking about at Crossroads. And we were prepping for that. And we were doing it in stage, in nice strategic phases. And so our first thing was just Jody and I, my wife, the pastor, did a pre-staged one, just the two of us out in the patio of our church. Nobody else was there. Then we brought in a team, a small team, and then we were getting ready to like train ushers and that sort of thing to facilitate it properly so they could do all that. Well, that's when things literally blew apart because the weather, it was like, not this last Sunday, but the weekend before that, it was blustery down in Queen Creek. And we had like a shade structure set up, and we hadn't brought out, we had speakers set up, but we hadn't brought our iPads out on stands yet, thank God, because we got like a haboob blow through. It was, yeah, and it blew that pop-up shade structure, and it destroyed it. It bent its legs off, and that, it was real. It's a good thing our iPads weren't out yet though, because they would have blown over and probably broken. And so we moved inside by the next morning, because that was a Saturday practice. And we've been inside ever since. So now and besides, we've this big a contingency who wanted to do the outside worship as we thought we had. And unlike Holly, we're not on a good jogging path or anything like that, so we're not going to attract people. People drive by all the time, but I don't think that'll do it. So now we're inside before we thought we were going to be inside, and so that added some complications. But you just gotta go with the flow and roll with the punches, and that's what we're doing. So great on you guys who can do the outside. It doesn't look like we're going to get there.
Oh no, Angie, do you want to say more about what was going on at Mountain View? You don't have to turn on your video. There you go. Go ahead. I think we can hear you. Nope. All right, well, Angie shared that up at Mountain View, they did their first outside worship, which was great. Then the pastor and his house had to go into quarantine. So they're back off for 2 weeks. I mean, yeah, that's the reality right now. And here it wasn't that long ago that the bishop had sent out the message that, yay, we can, in phases and certain groups could go ahead and meet in person. And, oh, you're supposed to relaunch again this week. Awesome. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, prayers that it goes well and that COVID is contained in your area and you can safely do that. School age kids, and he has, oh, yes, school age kids that were exposed. Yeah, it's a difficult situation that I can't imagine for you guys that are having to make these decisions for your congregation of being able to meet in person or not, when everybody desperately wants to, and it would fill their spirit so much to be able to see their good friends, but at the same time it could be such a huge risk. I think it's one of the things that we're all dealing with Thanksgiving, right? Go ahead, Bob.
Sorry, I'm late. I was dealing with some highway patrol stuff. But we had, up until Sunday before last, had been back at in-person worship for 4 weeks. And then we all of a sudden had a big spike at the Wilcox School District. We had 4 high school kids, 12 to 14 students and or teachers at the middle school, none at the elementary school. And so Tuesday night, 2 weeks ago, at the ad council meeting, we voted by and this is the first time in 10 years that I've served this church that we've ever had to have the ad council chair break a tie. It was that close to whether we would go back to suspended worship or continue on with in person. And so we did elect to go back to suspended worship and I think it was the right decision. Got a very nice note from the bishop and from Matt as well, letting us know that they were commending us and encouraging us to hold to, even though it seemed like it was a very difficult decision to make, and it seems like we're walking a tightrope, as the bishop said, and that's exactly it. So anyhow, we're back to only Zoom worship, and we had really a good attendance, probably even more than the combined attendance of the week before in Zoom and in person. So things are going okay. I will say that, and oh gosh, the local pastor that has the custodial business. Somebody help me out. I'm not hearing anybody.
Sorry, Ed Brown.
Yeah, Ed Brown. Thank you.
He's my pastor. Now I knew.
Ed, Ed came and they actually sprayed our church.
Yep.
They use a product called Prevent X. It's pretty doggone expensive, but the thing that I did not realize, because I was all excited about the Lysol that we were using, which works, and according to CDC, it kills the COVID virus as long as it's wet. Once it dries and you touch a surface, you have recontaminated that surface. And so, and I didn't know that. It doesn't say that in any of the literature. So Ed and his son-in-law Ben were telling me that this Preventex stuff is like, from a molecule standpoint, they're like little needles that stick up off of these molecules, and whatever touches it immediately kills whatever virus or contamination, and remains there for up to 90 days. So I would commend that to any of the churches. It, like I said, for the first quote that he gave me was $450 to come in quarterly and disinfect the church. But then when he saw, what how we've kind of closed things down, we're not using certain spaces in the church, and we're not using some restrooms, we're not using water fountains, and that sort of stuff. And so he readjusted that quote for me, and I just got that yesterday. So I'll talk to the trustees about that. But I was, for a little over $100 a month, and I know for some churches that might be expensive, but on the other hand, how expensive is one case of COVID? So I would recommend and commend Ed and Ben, his son-in-law, for their expertise, and they put it on. I was thinking, okay, well, we'll get that and we'll put it on with our 2-gallon garden sprayer, which we've been using with the Lysol. And he said, well, the only difference being is that we use an electrostatic sprayer, which, when it's ionized, it ionizes the spray, and that makes it cling to whatever surface that they spray, and makes it much better. He said you can use a sprayer, but you're going to use a whole lot more product using like a garden sprayer or even a hand sprayer than you would with a electrostatic sprayer. But that's like $1,000 just for the sprayer. So that probably wouldn't be something that any of us could afford.
And Bob, this is information that I guess I was going to ask if this is about that product, if the CDC has endorsed it or mentioned it as that is something, okay. But I do want to encourage everyone, as we share stuff, be sure to do your own research, check it out, go to the CDC website, especially with coronavirus stuff. Jennifer and then David.
So, having an inroad to Pastor Ed, he has cleaning contracts all over the state and some out of the state with federal protocols. So they're even more stringent than some of the ones that we have put in. Everything has been approved and gone through CDC, and he's using this product. He's also talking to the bishop already about plans for other churches to use this, and possibly going to, I don't know, some kind of payment plan or whatever. but he is working with the bishop already to get this out there to you guys. Yeah, he's just been wonderful with the whole thing. So we
Yeah,
were
he was.
all ready. Sorry, we were all ready to open on the 29th of this month to start Advent, and the numbers went back up. And we just decided that, you know, being responsible, we put it off again. So, but even if when we are ready, when we can open, we're ready. So.
Yeah, and Ben or Ed's challenge is the variable in his cost factors is travel. And so if he can get more churches, like he's working to try and get Safford and Sierra Vista and Benson all, on a rotation. And that being the case, it would be less expensive for him to do that and Wilcox than coming all the way out to Wilcox and going back. So he can lower his expenses or lower his costs and then pass that on to us.
Okay, so I put in the chat something that my wife just told me about recently, which is coming from outreach.com, where we get a lot of various offers by way of what I call the mothership. But usually the outreach stuff is like printing things like banners or postcards. But strangely enough, they now have, because some other stuff. And so what I linked to is a thing called Pure Rocks. And it's very similar to what you were just talking about, I think, Bob, because it does work with the electrostatic technology on the spraying. So it's efficient. The Pure Rocks is mostly hypochlorous acid, which is actually mostly water, but a small amount of the acid and enough salt and an electrical charge. And so it's very safe stuff. You could spray it on upholstered pews and whatnot, and it would dry pretty quickly. We were looking at taking our chairs, which we have individual chairs. We were going to put them out in the sun to try to have the sun kind of sanitize them. But now, if and when we can get back into the building and have actually people sitting on chairs, it looks like we're going to invest in this system because they do have sprayers and foggers of different sizes and different capacities and different packages. So it is a do it yourself system and available through outreach through the.
Okay, thanks everybody for sharing. This is talk with communicators, and as we all know, communicators end up working in all sorts of different areas. And Misty has a question about marketing. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm sorry if this is a silly question, right? There's no silly questions, only silly answers. No, I'm just kidding. That's not right either. So my evangelism committee is really excited about moving forward with reaching out into their community. And they're going back to some old tried and true methods, which is sending out mailers to people who live in the area and at least getting the name out. Is there any conference support for getting addresses in our areas? I know we have to pay a lot for that through independent organizations and companies. Is there anything like that available through the conference?
I haven't heard of that, but I wonder if through Dave McPherson's department, yeah, they might do, what is that resource called? It canvasses your neighborhood and it can tell you about the demographics and whatever. I just can't remember what it's called. I don't know if that provides addresses. It seems like it maybe would.
I don't think it does. We've gotten the demographics reports, which is really helpful for understanding our community, but I don't think it had any.
Yeah, they don't have addresses.
No.
I just wrote down the addresses from a Google map in our area. And then we sent out postcards that says, we're back.
Mhm.
And on the front or on the other side, it says to our neighbors at, and then I just entered the address, and it didn't really take that long to transcribe it from the Google map. So it went pretty quickly.
Okay, awesome. I think, so we have a magazine or some real estate flyers that go out about new houses being sold and bought and things like that. So they're going to use those addresses to start with, for new people who are moving in. And so we'll start there. There's like 30, we get 30 new ones a month, I guess. So at least. So that's where we'll start. But I just wanted to know if there's any other resources. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah. I'll look into that and see if there might be something from, like David says, the mother church from United Methodist Communications that offers something like that. Addresses for mailers. So I'll look into that. And when I hear back, I'll send an email to the same email group that gets this invitation. And then I'll try to remember to mention it. I think we meet again next week. No, next week is Thanksgiving week. So no, I'm actually going to be on vacation. Yay. You too. Yay. Good.
I'm
Yeah.
out of town.
Nice. And be careful. I know that's such a tough space. And obviously it's something that we're all having to deal with right now, the stress of, do I take the chance of meeting with my family? I'm sure it's, especially since we work for the church and we're having to be that spiritual, positive influence. What are you guys doing either for your communities or for yourselves to keep your spirits up, to keep from falling into a deep depression dive? Do you have any practices that you started because of COVID? Go ahead, Jennifer.
That seminar that I took, the writing retreat, that was excellent. Totally out of my ballpark. Not something that I really thought I would be, that I've been doing, but since I've been writing a lot of stuff for our services, I said maybe it would help. Well, it was absolutely wonderful. It's opened up a whole new thought process for me. And I even wrote our call to worship today for this Sunday based on a couple of words from your gathering around the table email that we got this week. And that and the need to feel inspired, I just started reading. There's a couple of great ideas in that one too for Christmas worship. I'm just trying to see what's out there and keep researching. So networking.
So I was in a car accident last Monday, just a week ago, I guess. And it didn't total my car, but it's definitely going to be in the shop for a while. So it's not COVID positivity, but there is a blessing out of that car accident in that my children and I are riding our bikes to school and back. It's thankfully a blessing is we're about 2 miles away or less. And so we've been riding every morning and every afternoon, and it is so wonderful. It has been such a blessing. I never rode bikes when I was a child. My parents did not teach me how to ride one. So I have been learning how to ride bikes as an adult. And this opportunity has just been an absolute blessing. So it's helped with stress. It's helped with positivity. It's turned a bad thing into a good thing. And I look forward to it every day.
Fabulous. Anyone else? Maybe you already had a really good practice for spiritual formation or grounding every day. Anything like that?
I think one thing that I do is we have a very ecumenical Bible study. It's called Toast and Theology, and we used to, prior to COVID, we would take turns preparing breakfast for the whole crew, and then we would gather together at the church at the Wilcox Church. And folks would come together. We'd have breakfast, and then that starts at 7:30, and then we have Bible study, and we bring everything to a close at 9 o'clock. So since COVID, we've been doing everything on Zoom, and folks have their breakfast at home, and we actually have more time for Bible study. And we've got folks from the LDS Church. We have a pastor from the Church of Christ, and a number of folks from the Wilcox Methodist Church, all coming together. We don't really talk about denominational theology and that sort of stuff. We're just doing basic Bible study. We're using Kay Arthur and David Lawson's books. They're called God's Love and Alive in You, and there's a whole series of them. Today we just started studying 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, James, and Philemon. So we're going through the epistles of John, and then we'll hit James and Philemon. So that's we just finished up Jeremiah, and so we've been in the Old Testament for quite a while, and folks were tired of the negativity, the blood and guts, and people getting destroyed and lands getting destroyed and all of that sort of stuff because they weren't behaving themselves. So
Very cool. And you guys do that every day?
no, it's on weekly on Tuesday.
Welcome, James. Do you have, well, I don't know if you saw in the chat, there was a question about the bottles behind you, James. Are those sodas?
Oh, those are just water bottles that I fill up with the different flavors.
Very cool.
You get the little individual packages and you pour them.
Oh, yeah.
I drink a lot more water that way because the water tastes better.
Yeah. Do you have something that you do like on a daily basis or weekly basis to lift your spirits and stay positive?
Oh, yeah, we do. We do have a Bible study also on Zoom, and we meet twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. And we have about 12 people that join in on that all the time. And we're in the book of Acts at the moment. And we just finished Jeremiah, the last one, And now we just started a new program to provide food bags for families in the Valley of Henderson and Las Vegas. The bags will be assigned names, and then we pick up 15, 20 bags or whatever it is. Then the people will drive through our parking lot and pick up the bags of food with their name on it from one of the pickup trucks. One of the guys, they'll leave them there, and if they don't come by to pick them up, we'll put them in our property till the next week. It's something that there's an organization in the valley that's doing that. So it's just kind of a drive-through pickup food. So be assigned. So.
Okay, cool.
Our church is working with the LDS churches in the area to build a tiny home up in the Navajo Nation. And so we're kind of getting that together and organizing, and they're going to build, it's going to be a prefab. They're going to build the walls here and then trailer them up and put them together on site. So that's one of the things for the outreach we're doing. But one thing we do to bring everybody's spirits up, our Women at the Well is our women's group, and they meet right before this meeting at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays. And today we did a practice of giving everyone a compliment and receiving them well. And it was very uplifting because oftentimes it's hard for people to accept compliments. We're all so focused on giving that you don't realize what a blessing it is to actually receive a compliment well for the other, even for the person who's giving it. So that was a very nice thing to have today.
Very cool. Well, I wanted to ask you guys before we go, as these really cool things happen, even if it's, you know, it seems like, oh yeah, but we do that every week, like the Bible study via Zoom. If you guys wouldn't mind, I would love to get a picture of this stuff, you know, 10-second video of it. You can shoot it on your phone. Ideally, instead of this direction, do it in this direction so that I can crop it as needed or use the full space. Maybe it's just walking up to the ministry that's happening, or showing, if it's a food drive, maybe a pan of all the food, or people putting it together. Of course, if there's any people in the video, please ask if it's okay if I record you. The conference is doing some good news publicity about our churches. Nobody's image is going to be used to make money, but we are trying to compile some images for future publicities pieces about how, I think it's April that it's the Desert Southwest Conference's turn to share a reflection on, for the Western Jurisdiction Media Campaign, the theme is something about, it's about the people, not the building thing. I can't remember the specific language on it, but I'll need a variety and to be able to show some diversity of our ministries, our people, our locations. So even geographic pan of your church area, that will be super valuable for this piece. And you know, we're going to compile all these pieces together, put a good narrative message on there, and make it available for all of our churches, but we'll certainly share it in social media and whatnot. Thank you. Angie's going to do it. They're doing a, oh, well, you guys saw in text, Cottonwood doing their Thanksgiving dinner delivery for 45 people on Sunday. Awesome. Way to go. Way to go. All right, guys, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me today. We were not going to meet next week because of the holiday, but we will meet the week after that. Be sure to email communications@dscumc.org if you have any questions or an idea for a topic for in the future. That's it. Have a great day. Bye.